I'm working 9 to 5, this 9 to 5 don't work for me. I gotta find my way about this ain't how it's supposed to be. Feel like I'm settling for less, that's why I gotta leave. They may not understand it, it's not for them to see. Cause it's my vision and it's not yours, no. And you won't get it until reverse rolls around and around. I put my dreams on hold, you tell me how that sound. I wish my dreams could pay cause I work for right now. Ain't had nobody yesterday gon' hold me down. While I chase these dreams and know my goals. Chase these dreams.
Hey everybody, this is Let's Vámonos and I'm your host Desiree. We are back here at 711 Milby Street here at the Ironworks Marketplace, the Cargo Vintage Ladies Pink Couch. We are excited to do another episode for y'all. We're doing something a little different today. We're gonna talk all about me, which is something I don't normally do, honestly. I wanted, though, this month to be a little bit more about me and my personal background story and give y'all an opportunity to ask all the questions regarding what y'all wanted to know about me. Before we get started, though, I want to go check with Chingona the Burbs and see what advice she has for us today.
Breaking news. There's a Chingona and the Burbs that forgot to put the lint filter back in the dryer and ruined her favorite shirt. This is your reminder to stay Chingona.
Thank you so much, Chingona and the Burbs, for that advice. We always appreciate you reminding us to stay Chingona. I always like to start off with a monologue, sharing a personal story. And since this episode is Ask Me Anything July, we're going to talk a little bit about my experiences as a child and some of those experiences growing up in the community as a third generation Latina. And the story I'm sharing is not necessarily about me being perfect, but I call it the perfect story because when I was about 13, maybe about 15 or 16 years old, I was part of the church youth group, and we were commingling, talking about experiences and stuff, and I had a fellow member, a young boy, tell me, he's like, "Oh, well, you're perfect." And in that context, it was about not me making any mistakes per se. It was about me not, I guess, being a rebel. Like, you know, I didn't go to parties, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke. I was pretty much the church girl, if you could say. And when he said those words to me, though, "You're perfect," it actually didn't give me like this boost of confidence or like something where I was just like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." It was more like I was actually kind of like just shocked that he would even say that, because I never saw myself as perfect in any shape or form, whether I didn't go to parties or did go to parties. I never saw myself as that. So I'm sharing this with y'all because so many of us don't really know the perception of other people, and so many people might perceive each other as perfect or without imperfections. And I just know that I'm not perfect, nobody is, and that we are all doing the best we can during this time with all of those twists and turns that we have in our life. So this is just a kind of a story to share with you regarding just think, you know, when people say certain things, or maybe you even think about certain people and say, "Hey, man, I wish I had their life," or "Their life seems perfect," because in reality, it really isn't, and that's okay. So, but we're gonna go ahead and get started, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the questions that my supporters have asked me. Let me grab the questions. I wrote them down so I wouldn't, because I can't memorize all of them. But some of the questions that people have asked me is like, when I got started, why I got started, all those types of questions. And I want to share really quick when I got started. So I actually got started back in 2019, which I started blogging. And I actually was doing Blogger by the Bay, and that was an opportunity for me to connect with local Latinas in my community. But it was something that was kind of a work in progress. I had only done it for 6 months, and I knew it within 6 months I didn't want to do that anymore, blogging, which was like writing. I knew I wanted to do something different. And in that process, I was trying to work on what was the next step for me and my growth. So one of the questions actually correlates with this. And one of the first questions I got was, does your husband support you? So I love this question because I feel like it's like some cheesemate. Like people want to know like the cheesemate, because obviously y'all don't ever see my husband on this channel, on this page, on any of it. And that is because it's not about him. If you want to know anything personal, it's on my personal page. But I loved this question because I know a lot of y'all are curious. But the story behind that is my husband does support me. I'm going to be super transparent though at the same time. He was very like, how are you going to do this? He wasn't really sure, like, he knew I could do it. He wasn't sure like how it was going to work. And so when I told him to just like trust me and like I have a plan and like this is what my goals and dreams are, he really started to understand that. And the other the other part of that is when I first started doing my very first interview, he was the one that actually pushed me to ask Thunder Rosa, Melissa Cervantes, who is a wrestling champion right now, to ask her to interview her. She was the first person I asked to interview in person. I had never done anything like that before. And honestly, if he hadn't pushed me to do that, I don't know if I would have been able to do something like that in the future. So yes, he does support me. Transparency, he's still trying to figure out like how am I doing all of this. But I really appreciate that question. I know y'all want the cheesemate, so I gave you a little bit of the cheesemate. Next question is, what made you decide to start doing something like this for the community? So again, I was doing blogging and I noticed that the Latina community didn't have a lot of outlets for us to be spotlighted on. Maybe there was a lot of groups and a lot of support and in women empowerment, but not so much spotlight. And I really wanted to give those women an opportunity to be spotlighted and highlighted on a platform that was just about them and what they did, specifically small businesses, women that worked in small businesses. That's why I started, and that was back in 2019 when I was doing the blogging. And even to this day, I still find that there are still many people who feel like they don't have a place for them to share their stories. So that's a little background on why I got started. Another question is, do you ever receive criticism, experience racism from your own culture, and how do you deal with it? So this is a really good question because I've talked a lot about this just on my social media about being a third generation Latina, what that means. Obviously, I'm not fluent in Spanish. I'm working on that. But have I ever received criticism and racism? Yes. The answer is yes. And actually more so when I was younger, specifically in my community where some of the people that I hung around with or I grew up in my community, they always kind of made me feel like an outsider because I didn't speak Spanish, or maybe because my parents didn't let me go to parties, or not that they didn't let me rephrase that. Maybe because that wasn't an interest of mine. I didn't really go to parties or ask to go to parties. And I didn't kind of hang around certain groups of people. And those were the people that were like the popular people, the people that were, all in I guess you could say a clique together. And a lot of people might not think this or know this, but I was an outsider in my community. So as far as the racism, as I've gotten older, I've been able to be embraced by more people that just are like me. I've met a lot of people that are like me throughout the years, and that's been very helpful. But I've experienced a lot of criticism and racism as I was younger, much younger. And if I deal with it now, the way I see it is just, I'm not trying here to convince anybody to like me or to accept me or anything like that. Just being who I am, and, you either accept it or you don't. And I encourage other people to do that as well, to not try to convince people to like them to some extent. Okay. Next question. Do you hire someone to record, edit your videos, or are you a one-woman show? So this is a great question. I really appreciate this. I try to talk about it as much as possible. Am I a one-woman show? Yes and no. I am the host of this, but I do have Jose Pina, who works with Pineapple Media Productions, and he does all the video. He is the man behind the camera, so he does do the videoing, but I actually do all the editing because he's actually been my mentor to help me do that, and he's the person that kind of showed me like, hey, this is how you can do it on your own to help with cost efficiency. So Jose, I'm gonna ask you to come over here.
Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. Thank you to our sponsors for all the love and support.